Do you ever wonder how great leaders in the community make things happen? When they encounter new, unexpected challenges like a pandemic, how do they continue to successfully make an impact? Welcome to That Sounds Terrific, the podcast that connects you with these amazing people. Get insights on what they do to meet their goals, find out how you can help them in their mission, and learn their methods so you can be more successful at what you do. Welcome to That Sounds Terrific with host Nick Koziol.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Today joining me is Angelo Marinelli, known as Edalo. And I get that right?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have a musician on the show because the show is called That Sounds Terrific. And I think that some people look at that title and go, okay, it must be about music. It must be about sound. It must be about whatever. But it's really about, getting people like Angelo here to come on the show and talk about the good they're doing for the world, how they're positively impacting in the community. And I can think of no better way than to have a musician come on and talk about his music and how he got started and all those things. So welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I mean, we could just start off like with that question, like how did you get started as a musician and how did Edalo form?
Well, I guess to start it all off, I've been playing music my whole life. I started playing music with my dad. He originally played bass, and he bought me a drum set when I was 3 years old, and it was one of those things that just kind of stuck my whole life. And I realized, hey, if I'm going to actually be a musician, I have to do more than just play the drums. So it definitely started out at an early age, and I'm a drummer, and that's what I'm most comfortable playing, and it's my first instrument. But yeah, I've been playing drums since I was 2. Then I kind of spread my knowledge to more of like the piano scales and midis, and then I kind of taught myself different computer programs like Logic X and Ableton, and realized that what people use in different studios. So then I went from being like kind of like a drummer playing the Beatles
Awesome.
to playing the piano, to writing my own music, to then singing on my own stuff, and learning that if you're going to be playing gigs, you can't necessarily play just the drums, so you have to be more of like a well-rounded musician. So my first love was obviously the Beatles and playing with my dad, and that's my root. And obviously Buffalo is my home, but I use Buffalo as kind of like a stepping stone for other cities and to headline in other cities. So I try and bring those roots back home, and I like to water my own grass instead of trying to water all these other lawns, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I mean, so a little bit about like, I don't think I've ever shared with my listeners even. A lot of times I don't really look into my guests because I want to kind of discover as I go along, but I was introduced to your music earlier by Marie. Yeah. So, awesome. And she's a past guest on the show as well. So I did get the opportunity to kind of listen in, and I really, dig your sound. There's a lot of variety and a lot of like collaboration, right?
Definitely.
And I love that. And so one of the things that I noticed when I was just kind of rooting around on YouTube and other places, I think on Spotify it had a description where you were kind of working with Robby Takac at one point. Yep. Which is kind of neat because my paths crossed with him because he's a Medaille alum, and I used to work at Medaille College, and we brought him on campus for an interview, and I got to kind of walk him around, and he's such a cool guy. I've seen him around Buffalo.
Yeah, to keep that kind of status, you have to be humble like that, and my first experience with him was actually when I was really young. He clearly runs GCR. I spent a lot of money recording there as a young kid, and Jay Zubricki, who was a sound engineer there, he was like, all right, I'd love to show your song to Robby and remind you, like, this was when I was this was in the 2000s. I was probably 18 at the time, so this was the first music industry experience I had an invest time. And he paid $1,500 for the recording, and we brought in Rick James's band. So I worked together with Jerry Livingston, rest in peace.
Mhm.
He, played bass for Rick James, and we brought in Kenny Hawkins, who also played for Rick James and like Mary J. Blige and stuff like that.
Very
Um,
cool.
yeah, it was mainly just bringing in some of like the heavy hitters locally. So it was just awesome being a little kid in the studio with all them working on our song. You know, when it comes down to like investors and the money part of it, obviously, it was more of a learning experience than a cash out experience. And I think those experiences are more beneficial for you, and was for me personally, because I think what you can learn from these people is more valuable than money.
Mhm.
So I think it was one of the best learning experiences I've had in my life, musically. So
Mhm.
great guy. I own my own studio in Buffalo, so I've definitely learned a lot from Robby, and he was my first person that I worked with in Buffalo on that scale. So very grateful for that.
That's awesome. It sounds like he was really a great person to have as like your first experience too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think if you're first starting off and you don't know how the recording business works, and you know, when you're writing and producing a record, there's so many other heads on the record, and it's about really keeping your creative control on the things that you create, and it's an amazing experience when you get to work with all different people who've you know been world class, and it's just like I said about what you can take from that experience and what you can do with that, because a lot of these music industry experiences, a
Mhm.
lot of people just want to make $1 million and they want to be like the one hit wonder and they just want to get out, and I feel like that separates me personally from a fat cat or a one hit wonder, because everything that you see me do is real, and I'm not a fat cat, and I'm very honest, and you can contact me. I'm a real
Yeah.
human just like everybody else, and I've learned that from working with Robby and other great musicians. So it's really a blessing, honestly. So I'm very blessed.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it just, we have that whole 6 degrees of separation kind of mentality sometimes, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, that was
man.
just a weird coincidence. Um, but I'm so glad I asked the question because it really kind of touched on something I was going to ask anyway, which was, what was one of your first experiences professionally? So that's cool.
Yeah. I think when it comes to creating music, nothing ended up really happening with the song that I created with Robby. And sometimes that happens.
Mhm.
The name of the game is that a lot of these artists are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars creating these EPs or albums that essentially flop, and that's cool. If you do something with your own passion and you're loving it and you're doing it and you're putting it out, congratulations, that's a huge step for you.
Mhm.
You For me, I do music because I love it, and I obviously do this full time, and I work together with other artists to kind of just tell them my experiences, and I obviously know that my experiences are different than other artists' experiences too. So I just try and just help other people, because I know what a hard time I had, and how much loss and how much failure or how much learning I've endured to kind of get where I am and
Mhm.
to do music full time, and to work with other artists. So it's just about, as uh, you know, going through and paying, and really just going through the proper steps to learn what you need to do for your music, because
Mhm.
it's one of those things where labels will own you and they'll want to own you for a long period of time for a shorter amount of money, but then
Mhm.
they'll also, the goal for you as an artist is to essentially not be owned and to make more money over a shorter period of time. So there's a lot of ins and outs to the industry that I've definitely settled in being independent and doing well independently, because of all the different lessons that I've learned throughout the decade of doing music. So it's been it, it's been a mountain climb.
Hmm.
If I think if you just constantly slowly go up and you meet people organically and you tour and you do things under your own name, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it ends up being more organic and real. And I think that your fate always tells, in the outcome. So yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble. But
Hell no, no, this is all
yeah.
interesting things, we had shared kind of offline that, I went to Fredonia and I kind of dabbled in music and stuff myself. And one of the things that I had kind of switched to was music business, and quickly realized, hey, I'm not a super competitive guy. I just like, to dabble in music. I love music, but I'm not going to make it in the industry because I'm not going to like go cutthroat and, you know,
Well, I mean, it's not even about being cutthroat. I think it's just about knowing, how should I put this? Just like having all sides covered, right?
yeah.
Like, if you're working with someone, they want to get paid and they want to get royalties and they want to get credit. And, there's a lot of like, you got to just make sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's. And ultimately, if you're not really a good person, that translates to your business deals. And for me, I just like to stay who I am and be great to people. I give
Mhm.
out my instrumentals when I want to collab with somebody. I'll send them like 5 to 10 songs and I'll be like, hey, pick it, and then we'll do 50-50 splits. And if I'm working with a bigger artist than me, that's the best way to meet them halfway and still bring something to the table.
Mhm.
If you're still putting out your music under distribution, you just need to make sure that you know you're putting the proper credit out there. So if you're on your socials, you need to make sure that they're linked to the Spotify. It's just a lot of A to Z, making sure of things,
Right.
making sure that you got the YouTube videos, the Spotify canvases, the Spotify playlisting, and all those things I do on my own. I offer Spotify playlisting to my clients and people that I work with because there are millions of Spotify playlists out there, as you know, and I have developed like a database of curators that I can contact and I can get your song on, 50 plus Spotify playlists, which in translation will get your song to, 100,000 streams to 500,000 streams, so like a million streams if you do it over like a course of 5 years, six
Mhm.
years. So it's just the process of never giving up, knowing how you're going to market your songs, knowing who you're going to hit up when your songs come out, and knowing what specific things you need to do to market and promote your songs. Because if you're not marketing and promoting your songs
Mhm.
when your songs come out, your songs essentially, your family will listen to it, your mom might think it's great, and your grandma might be your biggest fan.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things where you really got to just separate yourself on what you want to do with your music and your own personal goals.
Yeah. No, it's a lot. You're explaining a lot about marketing a podcast too, right there.
Exactly, man.
Right. You got to get it out
I,
there.
yeah, I think creators have the hardest time because, when you're creating something that you're passionate about, of course, there's going to be people that don't believe in you and they don't support it. And even if it's good and it's like godly or Christian, you'll have people out there that'll be like, oh, well, I'm an atheist and I don't believe in that. And then you'll have atheists that'll be like, and then you'll have, you'll always find that fine line
Right.
between the good and the bad. And I think as long as you're finding your own people and your own, fans, so essentially, that's what translates. Because music and creating something, not only music, but like podcasts or, anything along the audio line or in the arts. I mean,
Yeah.
because art is so hard to capitalize on, right? If you make something, a lot of people just make things because that's who they are. And for me, that's what I do with music. Music is,
Mhm.
something that I wake up and I do every day. I don't, I'm not nickel and diming people out there. I'm not a jerk when it comes to stuff. If you no call, no show me, of course I'm not going to work with you again. So that you have to protect yourself. You
Yeah.
can't just be a pushover, and I was always a really nice, friendly guy, so to be able to kind of know my limits with people is also a very important thing. Um, so you always have to watch out for yourself and be as nice as you can, but also, you know, you have to make sure that you have your own back
Yeah.
in the music industry. So it's kind of cutthroat, as you know, but I think there's a lot of good people out there in music that do music and that are, high in their league of doing it. And I think it's just about bringing something to the table to be like, oh, okay, I like Angelo Edlo, like I want to work with him. And I think that's why I've had a lot of success just in being a normal everyday person, you know when it comes to my music. So that you just got to keep things real, man.
Yeah. No, it's great advice. And I want to go back to something you had said earlier about, the one song with Robbie that didn't really go anywhere. It's an interesting world we live in now with, like, social media and TikTok in particular and all those things. You know, all it takes is that one like little section of the song to pop back up, and all of a
Oh,
sudden
right.
it's viral, so something
No,
that
yeah.
didn't work
30
out.
seconds,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Something
Yeah,
that didn't
literally.
work out years ago could end up working out just by accident almost. So,
And the thing too about it is even songs that have been out for 50 years
yep.
are put in these shows like Stranger Things and then are popping off because it's the most popular show or whatever, and the song
Yeah.
has been out and released for, I think, the Stranger Things tune, Running Up the Hill, I think it was the one tune from that show that did really well,
Right.
that was out, and now it's like, raking in, I think it's just about putting the song out, having a big discography. You don't know what's going to pop, when it's going to pop.
Yeah.
I make music for me and for the people who, appreciate it. And, I'm not putting out satanic music. I'm
Mhm.
not putting out stuff that makes your ears bleed. You know what I mean? I'm putting out, stuff that I like myself, and I don't like to limit myself to like one genre.
Mhm.
A lot of these artists and uh, producers and composers will I only make hip hop. I only make country. Like, no, like if
Yeah.
you're like, hey man, I need a country or a reggae song or a blues song, or I've uh, learned a lot in music to be able to make all genres of music. And I feel like being able to do that also sets you apart,
Right.
because if you live in an area like Buffalo that's mainly hip hop oriented, you know, you have to find the diamonds in the rough
Mhm.
in specific areas, not only with location. So it can get challenging from time to time.
Yeah, and I think I may have mentioned this earlier, but that was one of the things that I liked about, your music was there was, obviously I had mentioned the collaboration, but like you have different styles all throughout your repertoire, let's say.
Yeah,
And I really enjoy that. I enjoy that
thank
about a
you.
lot of artists when they kind of take those chances to try
Definitely a
something
chance.
different, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, because the industry, they want to put you in a box, and they want to tell you what to do. They want to tell you how to be. They want to tell you what music to make and how that music sounds. And like I said from the get go, it's about having 100% creative control over the music that you make.
mhm.
I love the song that I did with Robbie. but lo and behold, I did not have 100% creative control of that song, even though I was calling the shots on who to work with at such a young age.
Mhm.
um, I I learned that if you kind of do it on your own, I ended up just opening up my own studio for me, and uh, I save thousands and thousands of dollars because I'm not, working for somebody else. I'm not, working at another studio. I saved up all my own money and bought all my own gear.
Mhm.
And I may not have a ton of clients from day to day basis, and sometimes it'll be really packed, but my strategy in music is just like I said, to have your own everything. And what
Yeah.
I mean by that is, if I release my music on my own, I have my own label, independent label, so I work together closely with individuals who help me with that end and getting my music out there. And I like to just work with people one on one.
Mhm.
So, like, anything that you see me do is not a huge, major label, or not, maybe anyone that is taking a huge percentage of me. It's someone that I'm working together with that has my best interest. And if you work together with people that have your best interest, you end up making more money in the end for yourself and the other person. Because
Mhm.
if the other person is not nickel and diming you, like, for example, my booking agent booked me my first tour last October was from Vermont to Florida, and it was 10 headlining shows. I have a great relationship with my booking agent, and he didn't ask for that much, but yet I still wanted to give him the money to book these shows, and I did really well. I broke even and made a good amount of money for my first couple tours, and that alone is like really, really, really hard to do, because a lot of people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, on things like touring and recording time, and they're losing money. They're what you call the starving artist,
Right.
and I've tried to do the best I can to separate me from being a starving artist by not taking that major deal, owning my own studio, or even if it's just for me, um, finding my own spot, owning my own masters,
Right.
working with my own label. These are all the things that I've made sure, a lot of people, don't see what you're doing, and they'll laugh and they'll critique and they'll, you should do this, you should do that. But, as long as you're set up in a way that is good, that's that's all you need to do musically,
Mhm.
and if it's great to have those contracts that are, the $1 million deals, to be like, cool, like, you're on Sony, and there's a lot of that come out of Buffalo,
Right.
the Benny the Butcher, the West Side Gun, um, the people that were signed to Eminem and Shady Records, they came out of Buffalo, and that's incredible. Like, that's making it to the T, that's being famous, and but you can still do music without taking that $1 million deal, and you can still make money in music without being a starving artist. And I
Mhm.
think that that's where I land,
Mhm.
because I'm not a starving artist. I'm not struggling to, like, make my music. I have a new album coming out soon that I've created myself, and just think it's about working hard and having the passion to set yourself, or just set yourself up great.
Mhm.
Like, it's like being in. I don't mean to ramble, but
You're not.
it kind of just proves my point in the fact that it's like being just like a well-rounded a human in life. If you don't have, a lot of your, how should I say this? If you don't have your, building blocks set up in life, you're going to have to go back, and you're going to have to take twice as long to figure out those things that you need done, so I think it's about being patient, and having faith in yourself, and being an honest, guy. Obviously, everyone makes mistakes, but I think it's about, being true to yourself, and putting the most authentic art out there.
I think that there's a lot of great advice in what you just said.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I appreciate that. And I think that our listeners will appreciate you as an artist and as a person too.
Thank you.
Um, One of the things that you've mentioned a couple times is the whole starving artist concept. And I again went to Fredonia, and I know a number of people that do make a living out of music and
Right.
art.
Yeah.
um and everyone is different. And thinking of a particular family that both were musicians and hit very heavily when COVID happened. Their
Yeah.
performances were canceled, their life bread for their family,
Yeah.
right? So can you talk a little bit about maybe how you reacted to COVID, and maybe if you pivoted and like kind of what you did to kind of go through that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, honestly, during that time, I I personally was extremely busy with obviously due restrictions.
Mhm.
A lot of people, even personally, will, hit me up for their projects, So during COVID, um, maybe like one on one, I'd still, work. We were restricted probably for like what, like 2 years,
Yeah.
a year and a half, so I would have people, hey, like, obviously with health restrictions, I would one on one still remotely meet with people. And
Mhm.
because the spike for creating like skyrocketed, I
Mhm.
think, during COVID, because
For
there's
sure.
a lot of conflict, and a lot of people aren't sick, and a lot of people are dying, so everybody's off of work and everybody's trying to do something, so I had a lot of calls, a
Mhm.
lot of people were trying to work on their music, so I tried to do things remotely, and um like this, you can get a lot done, and you can do a lot with screen sharing. And you, honestly, I don't, I hate kind of saying that I was busy during COVID,
Mhm.
but I was just as busy during COVID, just with the due restrictions, because I feel like in times of tragedy like that, a lot of people go back to their passion or their art, and they use that as an outlet to create or make themselves feel better while they're going through this tragedy. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
tragedy. So I think it's just about maneuvering right, and knowing what your loopholes are, to help people. Because obviously, knock on wood, I got my vaccines. Like, I had to get them because of tour, and I obviously was out of work myself. So I tried to. I'm more of like a hustle and shaker.
Mhm.
If people are working on different things, such as mix and masters, I can work on those. And a lot of stuff can be done remote. A lot of my major collaborations were done remote, and I think as long as you have an overall goal of what you want to accomplish, you can get that done over the computer.
Right.
And we live in a time that's honestly pretty special if you know how to use it right. Because you can reach out to people with, you know, a huge draw, and just because you guys are sharing things and talking, that sometimes is enough,
Mhm.
so I think it's just about capturing the content, putting out the correct, uh, P's and Q's, and like knowing how to maneuver during a tragedy like that. Obviously, COVID is something that, you know, nobody can really do anything to, help the situation other than with themselves and with taking the proper precautions. So, you need to kind of ride the line pretty thin, and you just need to be careful. You can't be, working a ton, and you just got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. No, I think, I've said it before on this podcast that, even That Sounds Terrific came out of COVID. I went back to
Oh,
my
that's
creative
awesome. That's
roots,
amazing.
and decided I needed to do something, and I wanted to get out. At the time, it was, I think, probably more of like the height of the pandemic, and I had noticed there was a lot of negativity out in the world, and
Oh
I just
yeah.
wanted to focus on the people that were doing their best to bring out the good in the world, right?
I
So I called it kind of the COVID Renaissance, because there
I
was
love it.
definitely a new beginning and an enlightened time for us as artists. And I use that very loosely for me, but like people to return to their creative roots, like you were saying too. So it's kind of funny to be in the same line with what you're saying.
Yeah, man, I think you do a great job with not only connecting with people, but kind of hooking, reeling them in. And yeah, I was super thrilled and really grateful, like I said, to be on the show and
For
to
sure.
connect with you. I was super pumped. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I love having you on the show. It was really a welcomed introduction for Marie, and I'm like, this is going to be great. um I was excited, and then one of the things you had said in the episode was like, if you don't show up, and then I'm never working with you again. And not that I almost did that, but I appreciate, because I think we rescheduled this maybe three times.
Oh
um
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean,
so
it's different when you book time out,
right.
it's I realize that, everyone's got a tight schedule,
Sure.
but you know, it's just we had communication, Nick. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Oh
You
yeah.
told me, hey, you know what I mean? If you don't have communication and then no call, no show, why
Right.
would you want to? You know,
Yeah.
I I think it's like I said, you were very nice and awesome. You were like, hey, I got some stuff going on. And I was like, yeah, totally cool. Like, it's just about being like upfront and honest with people. And, but if you, like I said, if you blatantly will book some, if you, we could have, I could tell right off the bat, Nick, when somebody calls me and they want a session and then they don't show. It's like
Yeah.
I immediately have that gut intuition, on what's going to work out and what's not going to work
Right.
out. You can tell, so it's just about being a good person.
Yeah, and I asked that because I appreciate people like yourself, like, to take the time to rework your schedule. And so I do want to get into that part of the podcast, where I'm asking, um how can people like help you?
I've never gotten that question before.
Well, it wasn't
um,
meant to be a stumper.
honestly, just by listening to the music. And hey, if you listen to the music and you like the music, reach out.
Sure.
I love talking to people. I love connecting. I if you see that I'm touring and playing a show, I'd love to meet you in person. I think it's just about you know making new friends with people and connecting, being great with people. Other than just listening to the music and buying merch and coming out to the shows,
Mhm.
hit me up, say hello. I'll say hello. I don't like to separate myself from anybody, and I don't think I'm better than anybody else. So the
Awesome.
only way that you could help me out is just by you know saying hello and coming through. So
Yeah, for sure. And like, I will put this in the show notes, but what's one of the easiest ways to, like, find your music and your art?
I would say definitely Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, iHeartRadio. You'll see a lot of my behind the scenes type stuff on YouTube.
Mhm.
You can catch me on Instagram at Edalo Music. Same thing with my Facebook. It's Edalo Music as well. I'm searchable for sure, unless you don't know how to pronounce or spell my name, which surprisingly enough happens
Yeah,
often.
it happened
But
today.
yeah, hey, it's totally cool. At least, the catch 22 of that is, you remembered the name and you
Yeah,
reached out and you end up hitting me up. So, it definitely
for
sticks.
sure.
So for that, I'm grateful. Um, so
So, and I know you've mentioned a couple different things that you do for people, but how do you help people with your music, and with your recording studio, those types of things? How do you like to kind of assist the community?
Hey, well, I honestly wouldn't be in the community if I didn't love it. I lived in LA for 5 years and came back with a great opportunity to help others. So as far as helping others, I do Spotify playlisting. I'll record them. I do mix and masters. I like to give people all the recordings. So if they come and record with me, I like to give you all your parts. That's one of the main things that I realize that other studios don't do. They like to hold on to your recordings because you go and you record your words there. They won't give you your recordings. They'll give you a demo of your music with your words. They
Mhm.
won't separate anything. They won't take the time to give you any parts. And I've liked to do that for people because it essentially gives them the freedom to go anywhere else, work on their songs. I don't care who you work with. I don't care where you go. I do music because I love it. It's that, and that's my job. That's, to help people and to tell them the tricks, where they wouldn't normally know that, going to a studio, they're not going to give you that. It's
Right.
having that, one step ahead knowledge, where a lot of the times I'm not essentially getting paid for these things that I do to help people, and a lot of things I do out of the goodness of my heart, and that comes with its own struggle, I'm sure,
Yeah.
as so it's a catch 22.
Yeah. No, and I think we're on the same page with that too, because like earlier, even before the recording, I was telling you about, oh, I give everyone the recordings at the end. So you have the video, you have the raw audio.
Me and you are very
Yeah.
similar.
So
Yeah.
and I love that. I think it's important because I don't think I've had too many people make shorts or their own videos or their own commercials even out of these things, but
Yeah,
why not
but
give it
you
to them?
give them the opportunity to, and even with any of the singers that I've worked with, I'll create the lyric videos, the Spotify canvases that show up when you play it on Spotify, I'll make them the posts. And a
Hmm.
lot of these singers that I make these for, they won't even utilize it, and I'll spend, you know, my time sometimes spinning my wheels creating all this stuff that nobody ever uses except myself, and
Hmm.
I've realized that over the years of working with 15, 25 plus people that that's why I was like, man, I just got to sing on my own stuff and make my own stuff and just do it for do it for me because a lot of the frustration that I've had to deal with working with people, I've learned to essentially do on my own. And what I've had to replace as far as my weaknesses, I've had to work on to be better at those such things to not essentially be as frustrated,
Hmm.
you know. So
What kind of advice would you give to someone just trying to emerge into the music industry? Like, what's one of the big things you'd like to share?
I would say top three would be don't necessarily think that you need to sell out and be uh, you know, signed to like a major deal because you can release music under your own and you don't have to, be signed to Warner Brothers, because essentially once you're signed, you will only do what they tell you to do and you can't do it how you want to do it. You can't be who you want to be. You can't write or create what
Hmm.
you want to create. I would say the next thing is save. Being a musician is hard enough. You don't get paid every single day,
Hmm.
so it's about saving and working hard and monetizing your passion and finding all these avenues that you're good at to make money and essentially saving. And not, I'm not saying be cheap, but don't be out there buying tour buses and yachts for 40-foot yachts and your $1 million deal that you got from Warner Brothers will go like that. And $1 million nowadays, it's really not anything,
Right.
So, and I would say the third thing is uh, with saving, uh, how should I put this? Have all your own stuff, and I mean all your own stuff by have your own studio, have your own label, put out music on your own, you know, um, work with people that love you and trust you. And, it might take a lot longer, but, you'll make that million over time. You'll make that, you'll create that established fan base over the amount of times that you hit those cities. And it's really just all about strategy. You know, every day I wake up and I have a set strategy of what I'm doing for music and what I'm doing for other people. You know, and it's essentially about not giving away the whole cake. You
Right.
know, being a musician and a composer as a day job is super hard. So it's about you know, kind of leaving some kind of mystery, because if you're
Hmm.
not leaving some type of mystery, you know, you're not interesting. You
Hmm.
know, so you definitely have to do, you know, those things in order to kind of set yourself apart. And I've definitely done all of those things to, you know, kind of set myself apart. And that's definitely the advice I would give not only my younger me, but anyone who's
Hmm.
starting off. And, you know, everybody says, oh, music is not a competition, and it's not, but it's about being great at what you're doing and how different you're doing that in comparison to somebody else.
Yeah. I think you're a good example of you can do the work, right?
Right.
And love the work and do it on your own terms, that it is possible. And I think that's the, a theme that you keep coming back to in this episode, is talking about, do these, you can be successful in music, or really anything, on your own
Oh yeah.
terms. You don't need a big record label. You don't need a big corporate job. You don't need a big another person kind of directing you where to go. So
Definitely.
I think that's great. I think what you do is absolutely terrific. And here's the stumper question that usually stumps people. So
Oh gosh.
is there anything that I haven't like asked you that you just want to make sure that you let our audience know, or your followers know?
Well, I have a upcoming album created by yours truly. I sang on it. I composed everything. I mixed and mastered it. The only thing I didn't do was like tune my own vocals,
Mhm.
because I like to work with my friend Jake Spittler, who is a George Washington University audio engineer grad.
Awesome.
So I like to work with people that, you know, kind of help me cross my I's and or dot my I's and cross my T's.
Yeah.
But yeah, besides that, I got a new album coming out in October. I have a headlining show in Indiana August 5th, and I'll be doing another headlining tour this coming October around the new album.
Nice.
So, like I said, feel free to reach out to me. I love connecting and talking with people, and yeah, that would be the main one. So,
Very nice. Well, and Angela, it's been awesome having you on the show and learning more about you
thank
as
you
a
so much
person.
for having me.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely urge my listeners to check out your music. I'm looking forward to the new album. I think it's going to be awesome.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see, how much further you go. And
Thank you so much.
I appreciate, like, again, your music and the positive effects that it definitely had on me when I was listening, and I'm sure your
Oh
listeners
man.
too.
Hey man,
So
I really, like I said, thanks so much for having me on your show. I think you do a great job with bringing people together. You're not only an awesome person yourself, but yeah, I've had a lovely time talking with you, and I can't wait to talk again with you soon.
yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch. Thanks again.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Don't forget to check out the show notes and our website at thatsoundsterrific.com to find the contact information and the best ways to volunteer with the organizations that we feature. If you know someone that is doing terrific things and think they should be featured in a future episode, be sure to email us their name, contact info, and short description of what they're doing at thatsoundsterrific@gmail.com. If you like our show, give us a 5-star rating and give us some social media love by liking our Facebook page, That Sounds Terrific. Follow us on Twitter at Sounds Terrific 2 and Instagram at Sounds Terrific. We love hearing your feedback on how to make our show sound even more terrific. Till next time.